Hi everyone and welcome to the Proofpoint Cybersecurity webinar. We will start in a few minutes. We'll just wait for everyone to log on and then we'll kick off. So just bear with us for a moment. If anyone has any questions, definitely type them in the chat box. If someone can just quickly just make sure that you can hear us okay, just let us know in the chat box as well. But we'll start in just a few minutes. Thanks again for everyone for joining. We're just waiting for everyone just to log on. We will start in just a short moment. Thanks for joining. I think we might get started. Thanks again for everyone for joining the Proofpoint Cybersecurity webinar. My name is Daniel Vickers. I'm the Partner Development Manager at Ingram Micro, looking after Proofpoint. We're extremely excited to have Proofpoint presenting today to talk about how you guys can deliver customized security and awareness training. For anyone that's unfamiliar with Proofpoint, we've been partnered with them for just over a year now, and one of the great things about them is that they have solutions for all customers of all sizes. They have solutions for large enterprises as well as SMBs through their MSP offerings. So if we just move on to the agenda for today, we actually have the team giving an overview of the security and awareness training service, and they'll also be giving us a demo of the solution as well. So today we have from Proofpoint, we have a couple of speakers. We obviously have myself, who I'm the relationship manager at Ingram Micro, looking after our cloud security solutions. We have Adam, who looks after the security awareness and training services, and he's a specialist. And we have Randy, who's the Proofpoint Senior Global Sales Engineer. So I think that's about enough from me. I might hand it over to Adam, and we can kick things off.
Excellent, thank you, Daniel. So to get started, as mentioned, we will start with a bit of an overview. I always like to start these webinars off with an understanding as to why we need what we're talking about, and in this case being security and awareness training. And really, to begin with that, so I like to share some stats. And for anyone who doesn't know, Proofpoint regularly publish a number of different reports. And one of those reports we call the State of the Fish. We get some very interesting statistics from that, which we publish in that report. For anyone who has not read that, I strongly suggest going onto our website to review that material. I'm sure everyone will find that very interesting and useful. But one of the pieces I like to start off with that come out of that is an understanding of how we're being attacked these days. What does a modern threat landscape look like? And really the most interesting thing to start off with here is understanding that over 99% of threats are human activated. So only one of these that appear on the sort of top exploits list is a software-based vulnerability. The rest all require human action in order for the attack to proceed. So that immediately highlights a need to educate our users, knowing perfectly well that should any of these get through, it's really up to the end user to just determine whether or not the attack is successful or not. Now, further to that, what's interesting, and these stats come from Microsoft, the number of malware infections across 2019 have actually dropped 67%. So that's a good sign. That indicates that the security controls that we have in place are doing a good job at keeping malware out of our environments. But on the flip side, what's interesting is that we've seen the number of unique malicious URLs across 2017 to 2019 on the increase. So what does that actually mean? Attackers are moving away from leveraging malware and more so using techniques such as malicious URLs to host credential phishing attacks as a means of proceeding with these attacks within environments. So again, we're referring back to the likes of human interaction and credential phishing that do require a user to interact with it in some way, and in this case, entering their credentials. Now, some other interesting things that come out of the State of the Fish report published by Proofpoint is getting an understanding through surveys and feedback on what our users know and what they don't know. And again, this highlights the need for our users to be educated. And as an example, I've got some stats here at a very simple level. We can see here that of the users surveyed, only 61% actually knew what phishing was. And then below that, we can see some interesting password habits. And again, if we go back to the likes of credential phishing being a primary means of attacks these days, we can certainly understand the importance of not using things like a single password or passwords on rotation, which we can see is certainly the case with some of these password habits. So really what this summarizes is our users don't fully understand the risk and how their behaviors impact that risk. Now, the other interesting thing here, again, that came out of the report is the amount of time that is allocated or made available to our users to complete security awareness training. And some of these stats state that most organizations have less than 2 hours per year, not just for security awareness training, but also compliance and the training as well. So it shortens our time even more. So it certainly highlights some interesting areas and really starts to shape what security awareness training needs to look like as we progress with this. So how can Proofpoint Essentials help with that? Well, really to start off with, it's about ensuring that any security awareness training that we're providing is going to the right people. So what I mean by that is if we take that previous stat where most organizations have less than 2 hours available to their users, we need to ensure that the training that we're giving users is relevant to that individual. And that's incredibly important as opposed to giving users training that they may not necessarily need or they may already be aware of those certain areas. Now, the next part is around the education piece. What we've historically seen with training is that users may complete, as an example, some annual training, but then over the months, they tend to forget what they've learned and users being users go back to their old habits. So we need to ensure that the targeted training that we're giving our users is not only relevant, but is going to be retained by the user as well. So the techniques in which users are educated based on learning science principles to ensure that users will retain that information. And that is some of the areas that we're going to talk about further through this presentation. Now, the third piece is then, well, if our users do identify anything suspicious, they need to understand the process in terms of what they should do. Things such as reporting it to the security team, deleting their email, things like that are really important to ensure that users are not just identifying, but following the process end to end to reduce that risk. So now onto the actual solution. One of the key parts in identifying the risk, and again, this sort of backs on ensuring that we're giving that the right training to the right people, that's really all comes down to understanding what they know, what they don't know, and which users are susceptible for falling for phishing attacks. And one way in which we can achieve that is through running a phishing simulation. And that's, of course, one of the components of the PSAP Essentials program that we're talking about today. And what I really want to highlight here is the importance of the phishing messages that we use as part of those simulations. There's a lot of phishing simulations tools out there, but one of our key advantages is through leveraging the overall Proofpoint threat intelligence. And again, just to give some background on Proofpoint, on average, we see approximately 1/5 of the world's daily email volume from a corporate perspective. So you can imagine if there's any new threats in the wild that are attacking our users, we would have a good chance of having visibility of those. So they really make for the perfect examples to use as templates when it comes to running phishing simulations. So we're able to take that information and repurpose those templates to ensure that the messages that we're simulating with our users are relevant. And again, I keep using the word relevant, and that's a real key part here, is that we need to ensure that the information is not out of date. The templates we're using are not from 3 years ago and not relevant anymore. We need to ensure this is continuously updated to ensure that users are educated in the areas that they need to be. So I've got some screenshots here which give some examples of what some of these templates look like. And just to go through that a bit more, so what we've done here, we reached out to our Proofpoint threat intelligence team to give us some examples of what real threats look like. And these are messages that we've blocked from being received by our users and internally as well, just to give you an idea of what these actual phishing messages look like. So it would be really nice if we could then take these and use these as templates within your phishing simulations. And that's exactly what we're talking about here, taking these. And if I give some now examples of what the templates look like as part of the phishing simulation tool, these are some screen captures that I've taken from that, including some localized Australian content as well. And again, I mentioned the word relevant. Not only will there be international style examples of messages that you'll leverage as part of your phishing campaigns, things such as OneDrive documents or access to DocuSign documents, etc. We also want to make sure that for our local users in Australia, that you're able to leverage phishing attacks that are based on more localized content. And as an example here, I've got one from the what appears to be from the Australian Taxation Office, and another one from the Australian Medical Association. I'm sure, as everyone can appreciate, we have a lot of coronavirus style phishing templates simply because that is what the attackers have been leveraging. It really all comes down to emotions and leveraging that by means of users opening up those messages. Now, one of the things that I mentioned earlier was around learning science principles. And again, just to recap, this is a means of ensuring that any training that we provide our users, we want to ensure that they remember what they're learning long term. And that all comes down to the learning science principles that a lot of our modules have been built on. And I've included some pointers on some of the areas that we include as part of that define that. And a few things include, providing concepts and procedures together. So, we're not just talking about a video that users can press play, watch it, and then say they've completed it. Users need to actually be engaged with the content. So showing sample emails and guiding them through what they should be looking for by means of determining whether or not it's legitimate or a phishing attack. Now, the other thing that needs to be reviewed is the likes of story-based environments. So we understand that users learn best when they can relate to stories. So understanding particular scenarios that highlight particular or potential threats. It does a very good means of ensuring that our users are going to remember that. And the third point is learn by doing. So not only doing phishing simulations, but within the training modules, actually asking users, would you respond to this email? Would you provide your details? Things like that. What this does is that it allows users to build some muscle memory in a safe environment. So when it comes to them actually receiving a real threat, they're going to have some practice in terms of what they should look for and what they should do in those different scenarios. And the fourth point, I think, is really important, and that's providing feedback. And with our whole platform, that's what it really comes down to. It's giving users that immediate feedback. As an example, we're not going to wait to the end of a training module before we let users know if they got certain parts wrong as they're completing that. We'll notify them throughout the training as to whether or not they got it right or wrong, because it's the best opportunity to educate our users when it's fresh in their mind, when they've obviously just come out of thinking about what their response is, and then leveraging that as an opportunity to correct their train of thought. So immediate feedback is a very key area there. And we've just got some examples here. So different training modules are available throughout the platform. As you can see, it covers a range of different areas, and we'll cover that more throughout the demonstration. But then also, as I touched on before, it's about giving users an opportunity to practice. And here's a screenshot where it encourages users to look out for certain components of an email that may highlight whether or not it's a phishing message or not, building that muscle memory, as I mentioned earlier. And then lastly, I touched on the, relating to stories. So not only, will users be reading, obviously, the relevant information in the previous slides and interacting with it, but reading through different scenarios that show them what happens and the consequences of that as well is highly important. So I will stop my presentation there, and at this point, I will hand over to Randy for a demonstration.
Fantastic. Hey, thanks, Adam. While he's passing that over, let me go ahead and get things prepped and prepared.
And just while that's happening too, hopefully everyone has seen a poll appear on their screen. And the question being, do you currently have a security awareness program implemented? It's a yes or no question. It would be great if everyone could just answer that, and we'll review some of those results and share those with the audience throughout the presentation.
All right, if we can go ahead and, if we've had people respond to that poll, if we can go ahead and close that, that will allow me to go ahead and begin my portion.
Excellent, so those results have come through, and what we can see from the respondents is 44% said they do have a security awareness program implemented, and 56% have said no. They're the sort of results we typically expect to see, but hopefully through that, everyone will find value in going through the rest of the presentation to see how we at Proofpoint can help with that.
Perfect. Yeah, let me go ahead and share out my screen, and let's take and actually show you effectively what you would be seeing from a day-to-day basis. One of the key differentiators in terms of what we have against the competition is the fact that everything is an integrated experience, right? And so if you have email security through our platform, you actually come to a single pane of glass to manage everything. We have, when you come into your customer, we have what we refer to as the Threat Insight dashboard. This is a direct representation in terms of effectively the 30-day snapshot in terms of what the email security platform is actually taking and done for your customers. This comes in really handy if you do have a customer that has email security through us, because it tells that story. Because again, this is an obfuscated threat insight report that goes through and paints the picture, right? So for this particular customer, we took and blocked 8,160 total threats. And we come down here and we break out the different various categories, especially as it relates to phishing, right? Because we call phishing out into into your actual. Thank you for telling me that I'm sharing my wrong calendar. Hang tight. Stop showing screen, because that makes no sense. Try that one more time. All right, so let's rewind a little bit. So coming back to what I was talking about, does that look correct now? Does that look better? You should be seeing
now, Randy.
Fantastic. You're a consummate professional only if you mess up in your demonstration. So yeah, coming back to that, what we have here is, again, that integrated user experience that you see. If you have email security through us, you're presented with this single pane of glass. And again, coming back to that threat insight dashboard does provide for that 30-day snapshot. And again, fully exportable out to a PDF. And so I've actually got a version of that PDF, and it goes through and it breaks down the different various threats. This particular customer had 8,160 total threats in that 30-day period. 6,558 were spam. 454 were phishing and or imposter emails. And so that right there is very compelling in terms of from a conversational perspective with your customers, right? Because if the customers are actually seeing phishing simulations, then that makes it it makes it so you can have a really quick, easy conversation with them, querying them, hey, look, we're seeing phishing emails come in. And in this day and age, we know it's not, if a phishing email gets through, it's when a phishing email gets through. Are your users actually properly trained? And that's where the security awareness offering really, really shines. And so in order to get into the security awareness piece, you literally just click on the security awareness tab when they're enabled and go in and actually launch the platform. When you launch the actual platform, this goes and drops you into that individual customer's securityeducation.com tenant. You land in what we refer to as the company training report card. And the company training report card is just indicative in terms of the different various company assignments that have been sent out from the training side. Who are overdue users that haven't finished their assignments? Of the different various training modules, how are people taking and scoring? And that really gives you a good indication in terms of, the phishing and threat simulations that you may want to run. So when you go to the actual phishing tab, this gives you the ability to go through and look at the last year's worth of the campaigns that have been run against an organization. With this particular customer, you can see that, over the course of this year, they definitely started out rough, but the trend line is trending in the right direction because we want to see their, ability to not be fooled by phishing simulations go down. You always do also have the ability to come in and look at any of the previously run campaigns. Each of the different columns is actually sortable. And so if you take and click on the top column, you can actually sort and see, okay, this campaign had the highest click rate. You can actually go in and drill into the actual report, and this will go through and effectively show you, the different users that took and failed. You can also take and drill into each of the different individual various users. And when you go through and actually do that, the platform for that particular user goes out and paints effectively a report card for that individual user and gives you some good high-level information in terms of, how that person is performing as it relates to the different various phishing simulations that are being sent. In this case, Mr. Stanton, we've sent him 31 emails. He's clicked on 20 of those, which represents 65% of the different various emails that we've sent him. We give you some conclusions as far as some observations. This particular user fails more phishing simulations than they pass. They get very anxious. They see the different simulations come across and they're actually clicking on those simulations within 3 to 5 seconds. So again, why is that? Why are they taking and actually clicking that quickly? And that really comes down to the quality of the different various campaigns we have at our disposal. In order to launch a new campaign, you just click on the big new campaign button, and that takes you into one of almost 2,000 sourced from the wild phishing templates. As Adam mentioned, we see about 1/5 of the daily email mail flow that goes across the entire planet. So as we're seeing these different various threats come into the, into our platform, we go through and actually integrate them into it. So you'll consistently, as you come in and look into this platform, you'll see these numbers start to ratchet up. So we do have your good old-fashioned standard drive-by phishing campaign. This is where we send an email that purports to be from some type of legitimate source, and we're trying to get them to take and click on a link. Data entry phishing campaign, we're basically trying to get them to put in a username and password. And then the good old-fashioned classic attachment phishing campaign, where we're trying to take and actually get them to open an attachment. So let's go ahead and create a drive-by campaign, and we'll show you how quick and easy this actually is to do. So to come in, you come in and you basically give it a title. So let's call this November 2020. Because we're in, November. You have the ability, as Adam mentioned, to come in and look for different various threats. So let's look for a OneDrive based one, right? So you have a OneDrive document awaiting. And then we have this concept of AFR. AFR stands for the average failure rate. And so when you look at this AFR for this particular one, this one has a 6% average failure rate. And that's an average failure rate of everybody that's on this particular platform that has sent this phishing sample. 6% of them fall for it. You can also come in and sort by the average failure rate. So if you wanted to see ones that had a higher propensity for people taking and failing for them, you absolutely could. So if you, as an example, this Corona list of infected users, 18% average failure rate. You also have the ability to come in and look at ones that are region specific. So again, if you wanted to come in and look at ones that were specifically for Australia that had a 1 to 10% failure, you could actually take and find those. So in this case, a parking infringement notification. So we could take and add that. Perth Optus Stadium. And then here's that coronavirus one that Adam kind of showed in the actual demo. From there, you always have the ability to quickly and easily preview exactly what that message is going to look like in terms of what the recipient is going to see. And so in this case, this one's purported to be from the Australian Medical Association. And so very, very innocuous, very, very, you just want to see what you need to do to be safe to protect yourself from corona. The parking infringement notification purported to be from the city of Perth. You're going to get hit with a fine if you don't get that ticket paid. So again, very, very simple and easy. Now, the Corona list of infected users, that one had an 18% failure rate. And this is where the platform gets very, very powerful, especially if you have active email mail flow through the platform, because this message is purported to be from the HR department. Now, if you wanted to take and ratchet it up a bit, you could literally make it look like it's coming from your own organization. It's as simple as a drop down, and now that email looks as if it's coming from HR at your own internal domain.com. But that's not all. You have the ability to come in and actually modify the actual message itself. So coming in here and maybe making it look like it's coming across on official company letterhead or some type of official company notification would be appropriate. Coming in and changing the HR/medical team. I mean, I don't know many companies that have medical teams, but coming in and actually changing that over to the actual HR's contact information. Again, it raises that bar in terms of making it more believable. And again, taking it to that next level. From there, you have the ability to do targeted based campaigns. Since we are taking and syncing with the email security side of the house, if you've gone through and defined groups, you can take and actually do targeted campaigns at those groups. In this case, I have a finance group. I also have a sales group. And again, so I could take and do targeted campaigns at them. For this, we're actually going to take and target it to everybody. You also have the ability to take and run a previously run campaign. So again, going back to that list of already completed campaigns, I could actually choose that. From there, you're given the opportunity, if they do fall for the actual phishing simulation, do you want to give them that feedback? Oops, you fell for a fish. Are you of the creative variety? You can take and actually give them a custom URL that exists outside of the platform that maybe you have some of your own information. Or do you want to go through and just obfuscate it in the form of some type of error message, so that way they're none the wiser that they've taken and fallen for a phishing sample. So again, it just looks like they went to a bad page. From there, you're also given the ability to quickly and easily auto-enroll them into any of the 14 different training modules that come as part of the solution. So in this case, with this being a drive-by phishing campaign, auto-enrolling them into the Avoiding Dangerous Links 100% appropriate. From there, it's as simple as taking and selecting a day on the calendar on which you want the actual campaign to end. And then from there, how do you want to take and schedule it? Do you want to just shoot it out to everybody at one time? Not traditionally what we recommend. We definitely recommend the random scheduling approach. So that way those messages take and trickle out to everybody in the organization over the course of that work week. And since you did go through and actually select multiple different templates, it's not everybody is going to get the Corona list of infected users or the OneDrive document waiting. It's going to be randomized to everybody in the organization. So that way you kind of avoid the prairie dog effect and the word leaking out that, hey, IT is running another phishing simulation. And then from there, you can go through and we do a high-level analysis of the actual client system to make sure that that there's no outdated Java plugins or Adobe PDF things or of that nature. And then lastly, they go through and you're able to take and anonymize the user data results. Moving on from there, coming into the training side of the house, very, very similar in terms of how you go through and set up a new training. Again, you would come to here, you would create the assignment, again, give it a name. And then basically, do you want to do it as a schedule based, right? So a schedule based is for a fixed duration, meaning they're going to have a particular date range that they're going to be able to come in and actually finish that training. Duration, look at it from this perspective. If this were a new employee training, they would have 2 days, post enrollment, and then they'd get a notification, and then 45 days in which to be able to go out and finish that training. From there, it's as simple as coming down and selecting one of those 14 different training modules. And again, the trainings run the gambit. They're not just email security. They run the entire gambit from social engineering, making sure people aren't calling people up on the telephone and giving usernames and passwords. Security essentials, making sure users are situationally aware when they're in coffee shops, airports, or if the company has a secure building access, making sure nobody's piggybacking off of your badge entrance. Safer web browsing. So again, it runs the gambit. You always have the ability to come in and actually preview exactly what it is those trainings are going to have. And as Adam mentioned, each of these different modules is steeped in learning science principles. And again, going back to those learning science principles, again, the content is meant to be fully engaged and interactive. It's not, again, a video that can just be taken and played in another, tab, and then you get to the very end and you can go through and take the exam and actually pass. We want you to actually engage and interact with the video because at the end of each of the different various trainings, there is that, exam that they have to go through and take and pass in order to show competency for what it was they were actually trained on. And we make best efforts to make it the actual, exam portion appear as if it's real world examples. So this would be potentially representative of an email that they might receive from an actual place that they do e-commerce and shopping with. So based upon what they were just trained on, is this risky behavior or is this good? From there, as I say, we're going to pivot back and kind of talk more about the rest of the actual platform itself. And so from there, why is it we've got the Proofpoint Essentials integration piece. So when you want to take and actually launch it, again, like I showed in the demonstration, you effectively just click on the security awareness portal and that will take and launch you in. The offering can be sold as 100% standalone and or in conjunction with email security. Now, the upside benefit to selling it in conjunction with email security is that from a setup and configuration perspective, there's absolutely nothing else you have to go in and do with your customer. We take care of all of the allow lists and domains and things like that you would normally have to go in and configure for any other solution. And we take care of that all on the back end because, again, we own the actual technology and it's that integration piece. So we do also provide for API provisioning, and again, if they have active email mail flow through us, it automatically bypasses all the email security detections. There's nothing else you have to set up and configure. And we go ahead and everything that you have in the email security side is where the users get imported and synced from. And we also provide for the integrated help and documentation content. So why Proofpoint Essential Security Awareness, right? We are a Gartner Magic Quadrant leader for security awareness because the platform is powered by the Proofpoint Enterprise Security Awareness Platform. We're also, from a threat intelligence perspective, we're pulling in the samples that we're actually taking and seeing from the wild. The training modules, right? We have multi-language support for up to 35 different languages. And then again, it's 100% integrated if you're already an Essentials customer into that single pane of glass experience. So provisioning and customer management are the same. Support and documentation are the same, as is billing and invoicing. And again, we do provide, as part of the solution, how-to documentation in terms of going through and setting up the different various campaigns. We provide you with best practices guides in terms of, here's the rationale behind, doing and setting these things up, and here's like the samples that you'd want to go through and actually provide. Plus, on top of that, we give you a 24-month sample guide in terms of how to go through and actually set up a customer for success over the course of 24 months. So the broader MSP benefits as well is it's 100% channel driven, one-click provisioning, and again, it's that existing administrative console for customer management that you're already used to. And again, we go through and update the phishing campaigns and templates almost twice a week. And so again, you're going to consistently see that number go up as we see more things out in the actual wild. And again, we give you those the playbook and the scheduling tools necessary to be successful out the gate. In terms of who the key contacts are, again, you heard from Mr. Daniel Vickers. He's the Cloud Security Relationship Manager with Ingram Micro. You also have Brett Lee Price, who's the Cloud Security Vendor Manager with Ingram Micro. And then on the Proofpoint side of the house, you have Zane Lockley, who handles all the MSP partners in the north. Juanita is the south, and then you've got myself as the Senior Global Sales Engineer, and you're welcome to reach out to us if you have any questions. If there are any purchase queries or anything like that, go ahead and direct all of those to proofpoint@ingrammicro.com, and they'll be happy to take and address those. And from there, yeah, is there any questions that we have that have come in?
If there are any questions, definitely please type them into the chat box. Doesn't look like we have many.
Give it here another minute or two if.
We will be definitely sending out some follow-ups after this webinar. So if there are any questions, as Randy mentioned just in the last slide, there are plenty of resources both from Ingram and Proofpoint to help around security awareness training. I think in the poll question at the start, half of you didn't have a solution in place, so it's definitely a great option to bring into your portfolio. And for anyone that's already got a solution in place, obviously Proofpoint Essentials security assessment training is definitely an easy solution to use and implement. So if you do want to have a look at the service or any specific questions on how it might work in comparison to what you're already using, definitely feel free to reach out to us. So, as I mentioned, I think we've got a question: is what is the MSP pricing model, and is there a minimum initial license?
I'll direct. Yeah, if you want to tackle the pricing side, I'll tackle the.
Yeah, definitely. So basically, there is a pricing model, and we'll follow up in terms of the pricing after this webinar. It's a very cost-effective solution. So, but definitely, I'll send out some stuff afterwards.
In regards to, there is a order minimum of 25 licenses. Now, how that plays out is if you have a customer that has 15 users, they will be billed for the minimum of 25. But if you have a customer that's over 25, it would be consumptive based upon whatever that license count is on a month-to-month basis. And yeah, and that licensing is in arrears licensing.
All right. Well, I don't think we have any other questions, so we might. Oh no, here's another one. How does the security assessment training match up against some other competitive solutions?
Again, Proofpoint being a Gartner Magic Quadrant leader in the space for a number of years, we are the gold standard. And in terms of like what you're getting, again, is all powered by that Gartner Magic Quadrant leader. So I would say, lean into and look into. I don't believe Barracuda even registers on the Gartner Magic Quadrant for security awareness training.
Great, thanks for that. We've had a few questions trickle in. So, what services opportunities do I have as an MSSP to attach with the offering?
So traditionally what we find in that regard is that playbook that we were giving you comes from the enterprise side of our house. And so that's industry standard best practices for what they're going out and actually charging large enterprise customers. So what we traditionally see is you can charge an upfront setup fee to go through and actually set up the year, 24 months worth of training, and understand that once you do get into the flow of getting in and setting those up, especially if your customer has email security through the actual platform, that setup and configuration, both from setting up the trainings and setting up the phishing simulations, should realistically only take about an hour.
Great.
No, there's no ability to break the licenses across multiple subtenants, because again, we bill at the tenant level.
Any other questions from anyone? Question about can partners receive a trial?
Yes, every partner you're entitled to 50 NFR licenses. So that's both for email security and for the security awareness offering. The rationale behind that is so that way you can actually go in and kick the tires and show your potential customers what the look and feel of the platform is. But yes, you are entitled to 50 NFR licenses.
Great.
It is a consumption. Yeah, the question is it a consumption-based model? Yes, it is.
Thanks for that. All right then. I think doesn't look like there's any more. So thank you for everyone for asking the questions, and thank you very much for joining the session today. As I mentioned, there will be a follow-up after the session. So if you've got any other questions, definitely let us know.
Thanks all.
Thanks for attending.